has there been any discussion about how the $3 million in disaster funds are going to be allocated?
Which disaster fund?
I believe that that the state got $3 million in FEMA funds, I believe.
You lost me.
The counties have gotten different assistance. I don't know the exact
Right.
number.
Yeah. The state didn't. Yeah. I mean.
Of the most recent one, I don't know the exact number.
I mean, let me tell you where we are generally. I can't tell you how grateful I am to President Obama and to our congressional delegation for working together with my administration to win the funds that we have, both for public assistance and private assistance, that I think is probably unprecedented in Vermont's recent history. Other states weren't as successful as we were, but the administration has been extraordinarily good to us. It's going to allow us to rebuild from a really tough time. And you know, during these floods, I saw a lot of tears, a lot of stress, and a lot of pain. And to be able to turn to Vermonters and say, you know, if your house was damaged, if your most prized possessions were taken from you by floods, you qualify for up to $30,400 of cash in the bank that you don't have to pay back to help you recover. And that's just a huge help to us. The fact that Washington and Orange counties, Caledonia, just got included in the latest awards is just really big news for all of us. So I can't tell you how grateful I am to the President for standing with us every step of the way.
Speaking of federal government, how prepared is the state government for the possibility of the partial default or an inability to pay all bills starting next week? Have you drawn down everything possible? What are your thoughts about that?
You know, we have a plan, and Vermont will be in good shape compared to the other states should this eventuality happen. In conversations that I've been having with the White House, and as recently as yesterday morning, I know that they're confident, and therefore I'm confident, that we are not going to actually fail in raising the debt ceiling. It would be a calamity for our economy, be a calamity for our fragile economic recovery, and it would be a calamity in terms of sending a message to the rest of the world that the best democracy in the world doesn't have its act together. So I'm convinced that we'll come up with a 6-month solution that will be logical and acceptable to the President. Having said that, there's a lot of doom and gloom, and we're all focusing on the challenges in Washington. I think it's worth mentioning as an optimist that there's actually some good that's going to come out of this, which is that Washington, if our kids and grandkids are going to thrive economically in America, if we're going to create jobs and economic opportunities, Washington has to manage its dollars more like Vermont. Pay your bills. Don't accumulate extraordinary debt. And don't spend money you don't have. And I think that this entire debacle will lead to good results in terms of the United States of America starting to reduce its debt. We've got to do it.
So the 6-month solution, is that, you're confident that there will be a 6-month solution? That's Speaker Boehner's plan?
I don't think it'll be Speaker Boehner's plan. He can't even pass that in his own Congress.
What's the 6-month
But
solution?
I'm not going to speculate too much on what they'll come up with because I'm focusing on the heap of challenges I have right here in Vermont. But I think they'll come up with a plan, and I think it'll get us through.
So if this debt ceiling crisis ends up being good for the country in the long run, you know, Washington learns how to manage its dollars more like Vermont. Will we have the House Tea Party faction to thank it in the long run?
Well, I wouldn't suggest that the way it's being executed would be something we'd want to repeat. And no, we won't be thanking the Tea Party for anything except for extreme right-wing politics, refusing to do the obviously smart thing, which is ask the most vulnerable Americans to make some sacrifices at the same time that the oil company executives, the private jet owners, and the multi-millionaires and billionaires put some skin in the game too. The fact that the Tea Party will not consider asking the wealthiest Americans, the oil companies that have made more money, and the folks are flying around in corporate jets to help us out of this crisis is just extraordinary.
So what is it? You said Vermont's plan. What is the Vermont plan?
Well, I don't want to get too much into it except to say that, our cash reserves, Vermont's in great shape. We've been down so long we forget what it's like to see a little bit of up. We got one of the best bond ratings in the country because we pay our bills. Doesn't matter if we have a Republican governor or a Democratic governor, we pay our bills. We just managed, as you know, a $176 million budget shortfall by making tough choices without raising broad-based taxes on Vermonters that are already taxed enough. And we're in good shape. We have enough cash in the reserves to get us through for 6 months if Washington really did the unspeakable. All I can tell you is I don't think they will.
Is our credit in danger of being downgraded if the federal government defaults?
Well, every single state in the country is in danger of being downgraded. The scarier proposition is that U.S. treasuries are in danger of being downgraded. I mean, listen, we can disagree on how to get things done. We can disagree on policy. But the notion that Washington would let us get any closer than we are to not having a compromise is unthinkable in terms of jobs and economic security. And think about Vermonters. Interest rates on homes, on mortgages, go up immediately. Interest rates on car loans, up immediately. IRAs and stock portfolio, down immediately. And the list goes on and on. We just can't play games like this.
The Entergy's lawyer, Kathleen Sullivan, said during the hearings in late June that it would be highly likely the company would go down the path toward not refueling and toward permanent closing if they didn't get the preliminary injunction. They didn't get the preliminary injunction, and a week later they're refueling. So the question is there highly likely to close line in the same boat as no underground piping that carries radionuclides?
I think Vermonters have concluded, most Vermonters, that Entergy Louisiana doesn't do business the way we do business in Vermont. And Judge Murtha listened to their testimony, and he concluded that the threat wasn't reasonable, and I agreed with him.
Have they served you with any notice that you'll be deposed or testimony will be taken from you in this civil litigation?
Not that I know of.
Given the refueling, when they go forward in October, will give them enough fuel to go through March 2013. Is the state prepared to take any other action other than legal action to try and get them to shut down in March 2012?
Well, you know where I am. I mean, I believe that Entergy Louisiana has the same responsibility to comply with Vermont laws as the rest of us. And I don't think they're any more above the law than the rest of us. So we all know what the law says. We all know the vote. We all know that you can't operate a power plant without a certificate of public good. And we'll do whatever we need to do to make sure that the law is complied with.
Will you appeal any decision that's not in Vermont's favor?
It's too early to speculate on that. All I can tell you is we got great lawyers working for us over at the Attorney General's office, and they're probably better to answer those questions than me.
So you could envision a scenario where the judge rules against Vermont and you think that Vermont should just accept that?
No, I didn't say that.
So
that's a long stretch from what I said.
So, well, I mean, I guess
this is
either appeal or not appeal if it loses this case. What are your thoughts on what it should do if it does?
As you know, I have not hesitated to be very clear with you about my views on Entergy Louisiana and the way they do business in Vermont. I do have to be a little more careful than I used to be about talking about this case, since it's now being litigated in court and it's no longer a legislative matter. So I'll let my attorney, Bill Sorrell, do the talking and get back to you on that one.
But some of the analysts are saying it was a business decision, even if Entergy loses, district level, they appeal, and you can recover, you can keep the plant running for a year and a half and get your money out of the uranium. Are you sort of resigned to that likelihood that that plant may run for an extra year?
No.
But what can you do about it?
Again, I'll leave speculation to my attorneys. All I can tell you is, listen, that's like saying, if someone breaks Vermont law, what can you do about it? Well, you do everything you know how to do to make sure they comply with the law. The rest of us, if we don't comply with the law, we go to jail. I mean, you can use your imaginations. We'll do everything we can to make sure that Vermont's law is complied with.
Could you send in the police? Would it be a violation that would be subject to, action like that?
Well, again, I'm not going to speculate on where we might go. All I can tell you is, as governor, when I took the oath of office, one of the things that I agreed to do as governor is make sure that Vermonters and those doing business in Vermont comply with our laws, and it's no different than the other 49 governors, and I'll uphold that oath.
Do you plan to invoke the bill back provision?
Yes,
You do.
but we've already begun that process. Let me turn to Liz Miller on that one.
Yeah, I can speak to that. We have, under the recently passed statute, notified Entergy that it's a case that could be billed back. We have not, however, sent any bills to Entergy on the matter, and frankly are awaiting the course of the trial before even crossing that bridge. So we've done what we need to under the statute, and that's where it stands, and will stand for probably several weeks, if not months.
Do you know if the Attorney General has done the same? That's for the department, right? Are you doing it on his behalf as well in terms of any experts that might bolster that case? Is that how, I'm trying to make sure I'm clear, it's not two different departments.
Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on whether there's a separate obligation. My understanding was that as a state, we have complied with what we needed to do in terms of simply notifying the opposing party of the possibility of bill back. And that's where it stands now.
Do you do all the billing back on behalf of Bill Sorrell and his department?
I can't speak to the details of all of that because there are experts, there are witnesses in this case who were already retained by the department, as you probably saw in the preliminary injunction proceeding. There are others that the Attorney General has worked with directly, and I frankly don't right here have the details of the arrangements to tell you whether it's one department or two. But what I do understand is that we've notified the opposing party of the possibility.
Any idea how much it's cost so far?
No.
Can I just make a comment about that, though? I know we sometimes have short views of things. Listen, the Attorney General is there to enforce the laws of the state of Vermont and to defend us when we need defending. And there are cases that the Attorney General undertakes where we take a lot of money in, and there are obviously cases where we don't. You can't win all the time. But this notion that suddenly something unusual is happening with this particular administration and Attorney General, that we're spending money that hasn't been spent by past governors and Attorney Generals, is just not true. If you go look at the budget of the Attorney General's office, they win some, they lose some, but their job is to uphold the law. And I don't think we'd want to live in a state that didn't have that system. So this whole argument being made by some that this is all about, things we can't afford, I just think we ought to take the big view of this for a minute.
But would you expect that, in affording this one, that the entire bill is on Entergy?
We'll see.
I'd also just like to add that some of the good news here is because of the schedule the court has set, the case has been streamlined. And we are at a point right now with trial facing us in just over a month. Much work has been done. The work that's going to be done on the trial level will occur in the very short term. And frankly, from a cost point of view, that's good news, regardless of how the case comes out and whether the bill back statute is invoked. So I think that's important to remember.